The lush rainforests of Queensland's wet tropics are home to some of the most magnificent marvels of nature that Australia has to offer. Creatures every bit as awe-inspiring and dazzling in their diversity as the land from which they hail. Granted, my idea of a magnificent animal is probably a rather broader umbrella than that of most people. There's plenty that fall into that category for me that'd sit firmly in the run away and scream category for many others. Among those are an iconic group of spiders that have really been stealing the show on my channel as of late, the Huntsmen. Yes, I know they've started to hog the spotlight in my videos somewhat, and if it's the centipedes you're here for, then rest assured there's more of them coming soon. But in the meantime, let's talk about Huntsmen again. But not just any Huntsman. This video will showcase one of the most impressive spiders in the entirety of Australia. Hidden amongst the luxuriant foliage of Queensland's tropical rainforests, seldom seen by human eyes is a spider whose enigma is rivaled only by its beauty. Huntsmen as a whole are something that needs little introduction to anyone, especially here in Australia where they're often regarded as unofficial house pets, and quite frankly, when compared to more conventional house pets, are far safer, cleaner, and less invasive. But while every Australian knows about Huntsmen, precious few are aware of this most stunning member of the group, and even fewer have had the opportunity to behold one of these marvellous creatures in the flesh. Little is known about this animal, and even after several years it has yet to be given a proper name. Instead, it's known only by its admittedly very apt nickname, the Tiger Huntsman. A fair few of you ought to be aware that I recently travelled to Kuranda for a conference organised by Mini Beast Wildlife. The Tiger Huntsman was, it goes without saying, one of my principal quarries for the entirety of my 5-night stay. And it's fitting, for it was with Mini Beast Wildlife that this incredible arachnid's story began. The Mini Beast team first encountered one of these spiders in late 2006, and I can only imagine how riveting such a discovery would have been. In the years thenceforth, several more were found, to the point where a small captive breeding population was established. This in turn allowed for them to be observed at close quarters, and provided opportunity for a great deal more to be learned about these animals. The Tiger Huntsman is said to be very adept at jumping, with fully grown females allegedly being able to clear distances of around 40 centimeters in a single bound. Given the complex, multi-dimensional nature of the rainforest canopy these spiders inhabit, it's not hard to see why such athletic prowess would be of benefit. For many other huntsmen within the same size range, such as Holconia immanis, jumping is little more than glorified falling. While many of the more familiar large huntsman species live beneath loose sheets of bark on tree trunks, the tiger huntsman has a taste for foliage, inhabiting shelters that it constructs by weaving leaves together with silk. Nor is it the only huntsman to set up shop in such a manner. Berigama cordata, a somewhat smaller species with coloration that is almost as splendid as that of the tiger, shelters in this manner as well, and the two species coexist in North Queensland's rainforests. Though while the tiger huntsman is confined to the wet tropics, at least to our knowledge, Berigama cordata ranges down the coast of Queensland and into New South Wales. Several members of the widespread genus Neosporasus also construct retreats out of living leaves. Such shelters are rather strongly reminiscent of Ecophylla smaragdina nests, which are exceedingly common in North Queensland and were a frequent source of false hope when I was in Kuranda. Given the extremely limited number of wild observations of the species, it's near impossible to confidently determine the full extent of its distribution. For the longest time, it was thought to be confined to North Queensland. However, it's possible that the species range extends not only beyond Queensland, but outside Australia itself. This spider, which almost certainly represents something very similar, if not the same, was said to be found in Indonesia, so it's possible that the tiger huntsman, or at least something very close to it, could have a far broader distribution than we realise. Having a breeding group of tiger huntsmen that can be viewed in a controlled setting also means that their growth and reproduction become far easier to observe. Juveniles, as is by and large the norm for huntsmen, are rather nondescript. Drab, mottled brown spiders that look hardly different from the juveniles of many of the other huntsmen they share their range with. It's only as they grow that the vivid orange coloration begins to take over, except in the case of males. The animal kingdom is bursting at the seams with males that exhibit an all manner of flamboyant or even downright otherworldly characteristics, in stark contrast to their relatively dull and subdued females. The tiger huntsman, on the contrary, bucks this common trend, with males of the species having a far more muted appearance, being brown in colour with an abundance of long salmon pink hairs. Males, however, don't have much time to worry about their looks. Male spiders in general tend to be dealt the short end of the stick by nature, and although their chance of ending up as the female's post-romance feast is rather exaggerated, there's no denying that it does happen, and none too rarely either. For huntsmen, though, the boys don't generally face the consequences of asking a girl out when she's hungry, provided she's receptive in the first place. It's pretty commonplace for male huntsmen to survive the several hours or so spent indulged in adult playtime, after which they're free to continue wandering the bush in search of a different kind of bush. Male tiger huntsmen don't appear to have this luxury. Not only is sexual cannibalism alleged to be far more common in this species, but even if the male isn't preyed on by the female, it is apparently the norm for him to die soon after anyway. If spiders had cemeteries, it seems that all male tiger huntsmen would have died as he lived on their gravestones. I regrettably never got the chance to find tiger huntsmen while I was at Kuranda, though a very large male Berigama cordata gave me a huge rush of false hope, only for that drunken ecstasy to come crashing down moments later. But one of the people I was there with was far more fortunate. On our very last night, after a long walk around the village, we were nearing the caravan park at which we had been staying, following a path that meandered through the rainforest alongside the highway. Just as we were approaching the intersection from which the road to the caravan park extended, the sighting of two large Holconia emanus led to us scouring the area for a few moments to see what else may be around. It was then that an excited shout rent the still night air. I whipped around to see one of my companions staring at a tree trunk that I had passed mere seconds before. Right in the centre of the spotlight was a small huntsman with grey and brown mottling. Had I known nothing about huntsmen, I would have barely spared it a glance. The Holconia emanus looked much more impressive. But when you've been longingly staring at photos of something for years, you do become rather good at recognising it. Needless to say, the holy grail of Australian spiders was standing before me. We had combed the rainforest for days prior to no avail, yet here we found one, right next to a highway when the night's adventure was all but over. And that little brown spider grew into the very animal you're looking at right now. No, she's not mine, it was finders keepers, so she fell into the hands of the fellow who located her. But we met up recently, and after all these years, I finally had the chance to film one of these spectacular spiders up close. This is, to my knowledge, some of the first video footage ever posted of this species. Hope you enjoyed this opportunity to learn about one of the most amazing and yet mysterious spiders in Australia. If you want to see the rest of the footage from Kuranda, including the emotional roller coaster that stemmed from the Tiger Huntsman doppelganger, check out this playlist here. And don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed my content. Thanks a lot for watching, and I shall see you again very soon.